race fans, Ryan Aho here, the one and only Bert Lehman, and Coach Kraus in the house. Kraus, we're going to start this a couple minutes earlier. I don't know if you noticed, Bert jumps on wearing a Vikings hoodie, and he's like, "Oh shit, I can't do that, and people are going to know." He takes off his purple hoodie, and now we can finally start the show. Bert, closet Vikings fan over in the state of Wisconsin. I'm proud of you, man. You could have wore that.
It wasn't a Viking sweatshirt.
I don't know, Kraus. Right. It looked like a Viking. Hey. It was purple. Vikings purple. I don't know.
My high school's colors are purple and gold.
Well, of course they are, right? I mean, you're. I mean, like I said, closet Vikings fan. I'm proud of you. You could have wore that though. We wouldn't have minded that too much at all. So, episode number 213, guys, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. So, folks, if you pay for your own health insurance, if you're sick of paying too much, if you don't have health insurance because you don't want to pay what some of them quotes that you've seen are, if you have employees, you're self-employed, farmer, real estate, anybody that has to pay for their own or pay for their employees for health care, man, I might be able to help you out. We can bring you in typically cutting about in half what the average person is paying for healthcare. Give me a call, 218-969-1380. Hit me up on Messenger, whatever you want to do. I can get you a quick quote. I can fire you over some information. If it's a good fit, I can help you get on board and save some money. That's Impact Health Sharing. So, Bert, as we learned something new. You're a Vikings fan. I like it. Just kidding. Relax. Just kidding. All right. We learned that Kraus, he's big NASCAR fan for Brad. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Before we get into it, we're gonna kind of revamp the disclaimer here next week. Kind of excited about that. Then I don't have to say it every week, but gotta have a little disclaimer, right? Because we live in a world today where people's feelings get hurt pretty darn easily, right? So if you're that person, right, if you're easily offended, if you're triggered, sorry, not sorry. The show might not be for you. We like to have a lot of fun. We're just a few race fans here talking shit, the good, the bad, the ugly of racing. And that's just the way it is, right? We tell it how it is. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not, but we have a hell of a lot of fun doing it. Hopefully you have fun listening. So with that said, how you guys doing? Kraus, we don't want to talk about hockey. I think you guys are in a little slump over there. How's things going? You guys okay over there in Alexandria?
Oh, no, we're we won Friday. We beat Granite City on Friday and then lost the next two with empty net goals. So we were right there. We played the first and second place team all weekend. So I was happy with getting a win on Friday at home. And then we played well. We could have won all three, but we didn't. So still beat up. I only got 10 forwards. I still got 6 forwards injured, but we battled and competed. I thought both my goaltenders played well all weekend. So we're going to be fine. We get healthy. We're going to be right there in the thick of things.
Bert, how you doing? I'm actually not too far away from old Bert Lehman right now. I'm kind of hanging tight in just a little bit east of Beaver Dam. So I don't know how far I am from you, but I'm pretty close. So how's Bert doing?
I'm doing all right. My dishwasher's leaking, and now I see it. I heard just drip, drip, so it's leaking into the basement. So I'm going to have to get that fixed.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that one alone. I had a joke come to mind, but anyway, we might trigger some feelings here if I kind of make some comments here. So, do them by hand, Bert. I mean, come on, throw the dishwasher out, scrub them up by hand to get cleaner anyway. You don't need a dishwasher. So let's start with some fan questions, right? We've had a bunch of questions come in from our great fans. Got some pretty good ones this week. Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to one of our new sponsors here, Hard Charger Performance Specialties out in Sydney, Montana. That's Nick Hoff. So he's been building race engines, guys, for over 20 years. Not only does he build engines, I mean, he'll do gears. He does a lot of different stuff out there. He lived up in northern Minnesota for a while, so I got to know him pretty well. Good friend of mine. Actually built a few engines for me and won some races with them. Had some pretty good luck. Really passionate about working well with the people he builds engines for. You're not just a number. That's pretty cool. He'll build anything, street stocks to late models and anything in between. He can build them for you. And if you're out in that, I guess, the western North Dakota, eastern Montana, out in that neck of the woods, and if you're looking for some dyno time, he's got the only dyno within like a 500-mile radius where you can schedule dyno time, get a hold of him. Also, if you're out there and you're like, you know what, I don't want a built engine, I'm kind of a crate guy running WISSOTA stuff, he is the guy out in that direction that repairs the crate motors, because you got to have a certified person to be able to repair them with WISSOTA crates. He's the guy out west. And if you're looking for a new engine builder and you're like, man, that's a long ways to drive, he's got some shipping options as well. So that's Hard Charger Performance Specialties. You can get a hold of them at 406-478-4437. So got a few questions here, guys, and we'll kind of take them. I think I got a handful here. And Brent, he's a good friend of the show. He sent a few in over the past couple of years, and he said this. He said, thanks for taking the time to create the show every week. Truly appreciate the effort, guys. Thanks a lot, Brent, for that. He said, on a Hunt the Front episode a little while back, there was a slow driver, right? I mean, we've seen him, a slow driver causing havoc, right? Causing all kinds of issues, getting in the way in qualifying, good Lord, getting lapped multiple times. Got some sticky stuff falling off here. We got a little technical difficulty myself, so bear with me just 1 second. They don't make the sticky stuff here like they used to, guys. I got stuff falling off the back of my phone. I don't know what that's all about. Hopefully she stays on. So his question was this. When you got somebody struggling, or could be on a national level, could be on a local level, but clearly they're way off the pace. They're not running good, right? Is there typically a driver, crew guy, somebody that steps in, helps these guys out, gets them up to speed? Or, I mean, have you typically seen them like, that guy just sucks and they're in the way and we're just going to stay far away from that guy? Kraus, you're a racer. What have you seen? Have you been the guy to help anybody out? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've definitely done my helping out, and it kind of stemmed from you, Ryan, because you helped me out, and a little bit, and obviously it was kind of a little bit different deal. But I think right now, if you've been racing and been around racing, I started racing in 1997. My dad started racing in 1979, and actually ran in the early 70s. You've been around long enough. You have to, if you want to get other people involved and keep them in the sport, you have to help out other drivers. And I've done that. And, I've heard stories of national guys doing it. I've heard stories of Mark Richards doing it and other guys doing it, given the time to help out some people. And you got to remember, a lot of times, a lot of those drivers aren't going to ask for help. They're not going to go running around the pit area and asking for help and all this and that. So, like I said, I have heard some stories of some of those guys doing it, and I've done it. And Ryan, I know you've done it. Just helping out guys, and whether they take it or, hey, if they say get lost, they say get lost. But I think the big thing is, Ryan, you got to put your ego aside. Hey, and let's go help some drivers out. And at the end of the day, I think it's a good gesture. And at the end of the day, if we're helping out drivers and we're getting more drivers involved in the sport, you know what? That's what we need to be doing.
Any specific stories? I got a couple stories that come to mind. Any stories, it doesn't necessarily have to have a name, but is there any stories that come to mind where you're like, man, that person was just struggling, bam, I helped them out, kind of helped them turn things around? Any neat stories?
No, I've done it with multiple drivers. I do it a little bit more with the street stock guys right now. I did spend a year in the street stocks, and helping guys out. Hey, you say what you want about Tim Johnson. I've seen him over cutting with torches and welders and helping out multiple street stocks. And in the middle of the races, he's over there, down there, changing springs in a super stock for somebody and helping them out. And like I said, say you want about Timmy, but he's one guy that I know that's gone over there and helped out plenty of guys. I mean, you see it all the time. You see a lot of guys like that. And like I said, it's hard to sometimes go ask for help. A lot of times, and plus you don't know anybody. A lot of times those people don't know anybody. So if I do see someone, they introduce myself, and if they want some advice, I'll give it to them. But yeah, I think Timmy's one guy I think I've seen that's helped out plenty of guys, and especially now, and especially in like the streeters, he's kind of out of the streeters, and same with me. I'm out of the street stock. I see a guy needs some help, I'll go over there and help him.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bert, how about your neck of the woods? Is that pretty common over in eastern Wisconsin? the veteran drivers kind of taking somebody underneath their wings that needs that help?
I've seen it happen, and I think it's a good thing. And a veteran driver should be willing to help out a new driver that's struggling a little bit, not only from the standpoint of, like Coach Kraus said, to keep those drivers in the sport, but also from a safety aspect. I mean, if a driver is really struggling, we've seen drivers who, you could say they're a hazard out on the track. So, if a veteran can lend some advice and help it along, get them a little bit faster, so they're not a hazard, that's a good thing for everybody involved. And I mean, one example that comes to mind is when I was on MJ's crew, late model driver who was just in the early stages of his career. MJ told him that he could bring his car to MJ's shop, and MJ helped him scale the car. So that was an example, and that driver is still racing late models today.
Nice. See, I learned that from my dad, and I look back, I pretty much every driver I know that's had any kind of success, in my home area up in northern Minnesota, they have all reached down and helped somebody else, right? It's crazy. I had rivalries with people like Dave Moss, Kelly Esty, Daryl Nelson. These people have all helped other people throughout their career. That's just part of the racing community. Now, I will say this. Once drivers start getting fast enough where they're going to be stealing wins, you're only going to tell them so much, right? We're not going to give all the secrets, okay? So that's kind of the key. But with that said, man, I got a little technical difficulties. I got a little sticky magnet deal on the back of my phone here, and it literally keeps falling off. I don't know what the heck the deal is with it. But anyway, my dad, growing up, it was very common to have cars in the shop. My dad built engines for guys, helped a lot of people. I had a lot of cars in the shop, scaling cars as well. A couple fun stories I remember. I went out to Grand Forks. It might have been called the River City Speedway. It might have been that at the time, but I was out there in a super, and I went out on a hot laps. There was this red 17, and I was rolling the high side, and this guy it was kind of like that deal in Days of Thunder. You're like, oh, right? And bam, he drilled me, and we went yard sailing off the end of the track in hot laps. I'm like, what the hell was that? What's this guy doing? I go down to him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, I can't get this thing to turn at all. It don't turn at all. I'm like, well, where's your brake set at? He's like, I don't know what do you mean? I'm like, well, I looked at his master cylinders, the balance bar. He didn't even have a brake adjuster. It was turned all the way to the front. I'm like, wow, there's supposed to be an adjuster. I had no idea. He didn't know, right? If you don't know, you don't know. So I dialed it in mostly to the rear, and I said, what do you got for Stager? He's like, I don't know. They just told me to get a 27.5, a 26.5, big tire, little tire, put them on the back. I put new ones on every week. Kraus, he had a 26.5 on the right rear, 27.5 on the left rear. I'm like, dude, you got to flip-flop those. All right. He went out there in the heat race, and he didn't win or nothing, but he ran competitive, kind of stayed with the pack. I literally thought he was going to cry. He came down. That dude was so excited because it's the first time he could make it around the track. And guess what? Probably kept him racing. And then there's a lot of stories. People bringing stuff over, cars junk, you fix it up. We talk about Dave Dulciak, guys. I had no idea. He went like a decade, never even scaled his car. How's that a thing? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I didn't even have scales. Well, he has scales now. He wins a bunch of races. But one of the first things I did when I started going to the races around Sycamore was like, who can I help, right? Who can I look down? He had, pretty sharp looking car, kept it clean, kept it straight. I'm like, I'll go meet that guy. And there's a lot of satisfaction. So if you're an experienced racer, you got some knowledge, help somebody out. If you're that person that you're struggling, don't be afraid to go talk to somebody, because there's a ton of people willing to get you in the right direction. And that's what keeps this sport going. So that's a great question from Brent. Kraus, here's another one for you. With soda points, what if with soda or any sanctioning body, but he's talking with soda here, had a point structure deal, right, where they gave points to racetracks for least cautions, most passing, most lead changes, different things like that. Set up a criteria, and they started ranking tracks and incentivized racetracks for having a better, more entertaining race program. Could that work? Your thoughts?
I think something could work down those lines. I think, least amount of caution, some of that stuff, I don't think you can put in there. But, let's look at this WISSOTA Track of the Year thing. You know what I mean? Let's make that an incentive to actually win that. Give some of these tracks, hey, I want to be the 2024 WISSOTA Track of the Year. What am I going to get for it? And have a criteria. I know Viking Speedway was in 2005, and I know it's kind of faded through these years. There used to be a big deal. I know they still do it at the banquet, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think we need to make that a little bit bigger deal. Maybe have some incentives for it, whether it's financial or something kickback. But I think they're on the right page there, and I think it may give some of these tracks a little kick in the butt and maybe a little incentive to do something about it. No different than a racer. You dangle more money in from them or more, hey, go to the WISSOTA 100, you're going to get more contingency prizes, whatever it may be. I think there's something on the right track there, and I think it's something they should look into.
Bert?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with offering incentives. You got to pick good incentives, though. I mean, you have to pick good incentives and then pick good criteria in order to meet those incentives. Just for example, least cautions. Flagman will never be throwing cautions out. The race director will say, no caution, no caution. So, they have to be realistic criteria for the incentives.
Yeah, we'll have flat out enduro racing, cars sitting everywhere, right? It'd be an obstacle course out there. I'm going to go with no, not with WISSOTA. They nonchalantly tried this last year, right? And in fact, Dennis McCauley removed from the WISSOTA board because he took it upon himself to kind of do something, right? So at the WISSOTA meetings a couple of years ago, he took it upon himself and he kind of had his own criteria. He gave an award to the Thunder City Speedway for a great culture, his best experience, and he got a demerit. Like the WISSOTA board, they actually wrote that down and they said he can't be doing that. He can't single out racetracks because of what they're doing. That was a good thing, right? He's like, these guys are doing great. They got 2,000 people in the grandstands every night. And the other flip side of that is when he started getting a little bit, on the critiquing tracks, and of course he didn't work with WISSOTA on that or whatever, but people got their feelings hurt, right? So you got to be really careful about that, because if you start singling out one track, oh man, they're favoring track A, B, and C over here, and we never get any credit for nothing. So feelings get hurt. We live in a world now that if you give somebody a little recognition, there's going to be other people that are kind of feeling butthurt about it. So I don't know. I like the idea, but there's maybe some bad side of that as well. So Joe sent one over here. So it was Daytona 500 this past weekend. Joe said, am I the only one that am completely frustrated by sitting for hours and hours watching a boring NASCAR race only to see it finish under caution? Either you want to take that?
Yeah, I will admit it was frustrating. At the end of the race, when I when I realized that they weren't going to restart the race because the leaders had taken the white, I was thinking to myself, sat here all this time. This is the most exciting time of the race, and this is how it's going to end. So it was frustrating.
Kraus?
Yeah. You know where I'm at. I was texting last night, and then it's like, you got the opportunity, NASCAR, to you have to end the Daytona 500 under green. I don't care if there's one car left on that track, okay? And that's the reason why, they all wreck. Well, tough. The drivers are going to figure it out eventually, okay? Hey, let's take it a little bit easy. Let's settle down here a little bit. But you have to end that race under green. You can't let all them see that. I texted you guys last night, said I'm going to snap this thing's in under yellow, and sure enough, and all that guy in the flag stand had to do was flip his yellow on before those cars crossed the white, before the white flag, and he didn't do it. So I don't know whether that was NASCAR's car or whoever calls that. He had plenty of time to do it. And I get they're going 200 miles an hour, but he could have flipped that switch before they hit the cross the finish line and before they took the white flag. So you have to end these races under green. It's, they remember, I don't know, you remember the ARCA races a few years ago, they had unlimited number of green, white checkers or overtime. Well, it was the most exciting race there is, but they ended under green. They have to do something about this. I am not a fan of this stage racing. It's let these guys stay out there, give them bigger fuel cells. I'd give them a harder tire, better tire that lasts longer. Make these guys slip and slide. I get it's Daytona and we need safety, but keep the cars off pit road because you can get more injuries on pit road than you do in the track. Hey, and if they go green to checker to Daytona 500, so be it. That'd be exciting. People won't leave their seat. They won't leave their couch if it goes 200 straight laps because you're going to be going, oh, what? Holy smoke. So they have to end these races under green. That's all there is to it. Have to end NASCAR races under green.
The only time it should end under caution, in my opinion, is if it rains. That should be it. They're ending under, we talk late models. Lucas Oil has the green checker deal. I think that's stupid too. But this is an entertainment, or it's supposed to be an entertainment industry. Green, white, checkered finishes are amongst the most entertaining thing in all forms of racing. And when you take that away from the fans, it's ridiculous, and the second place driver, Alex Bowman, he was like, congratulating his teammate, but he kind of felt like I had a shot to win that deal. He was in position to win, and they not only robbed it from him and their team, but they robbed it from the fans because they didn't get to see that good finish. Bert, anything else, Dad?
Well, and what made it doubly bad is, they were racing on Monday. So, all the fans who stuck around through Sunday and came back on Monday, came on Monday, and then to see the race end like that, yes, I could see it very frustrating. I mean, I was frustrated sitting on my recliner.
So sticking on the NASCAR deal here, Bert, you sent me something in our messenger, basically that some of the NASCAR teams have hired a lawyer and they are looking to kind of make some noise here. Talk a little bit about that, a little bit kind of interesting. I do have a take on that, but why don't you fill us in what's going on there?
Yeah, the story was on jski.com, which is a great site for NASCAR type news and rumors. But apparently the team owners who have the charters for the team charters, the contract with NASCAR must be coming up soon. So they're trying to negotiate with NASCAR on a new contract and get better pay and that sort of thing. It's all about money. And apparently the team owners want permanent charters. NASCAR doesn't want to give permanent charters. But anyway, to make a long story short, according to this article, NASCAR has hired the lawyer who won the case for the college student athletes so they can get paid. And then he's also the lawyer who got equal pay for the U.S. women's soccer team. So, I mean, this isn't any slouch lawyer. They didn't hire him to work the case. They hired him to advise them what to do, how to approach this. But, I mean, you could see that in the future, he may get more involved.
One thing leads to another. So the permanent charter would essentially look like NFL, right? They have the 32 NFL teams. That's the teams. That's who plays. So NASCAR, they want to have 36 charters that are permanent charters. Those 36 teams are automatically guaranteed to every single race for eternity. Is kind of the way I'm looking at it. Is they want it to be like that. NHL, they got their set teams. Baseball, Formula One's the only thing in racing I know of that has that. Like, we have 18 F1 teams. Nobody can come in and start a new team. That's not a thing. You can be a billionaire, right? You can have all the money in the world. And it was one of the Andretti's. They tried to start a team in F1, and F1 says, yeah, bullshit, right? That other owner said, we are not letting you, right? We're not letting you start another team. If you want a team, you got to buy one of the existing teams because they have a revenue sharing deal. So that's kind of what I get out of it is these NASCAR owners kind of want to have a format like that where they have a revenue sharing and they want to be locked in as the 36 teams of NASCAR. I mean, not like there's really been a team that's been a startup team in NASCAR that I could think of recently, and there may not be, but I don't know. I mean, kind of a slippery slope, I guess. I mean, kind of capping off pretty much any potential chance of growth. So we'll see what happens there. Robbie had one last question here, late model stuff. So speed weeks are essentially done after Volusia this past weekend. East Bay, no longer going to be on the speed week schedule. Do you think, right, are any tracks that do you think they're going to add? And are there any tracks that you guys would add to speed weeks to fill the void left by East Bay for the Moz late models, specifically the late models? And do you think they're going to add any tracks? And if so, what tracks do you think they might be?
I don't know if they're going to add any tracks. I'm not sure what other dirt tracks are in that area. The articles I've read is that maybe, there'll be a speed weeks after the Daytona 500 and at like Golden Isle or, in that area, kind of like they're doing now, but just more races. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. It'll be interesting.
Kraus, do you think any tracks are going to get added, whether they're, a Georgia track during speed weeks, another Florida track? And is there any that you'd like to see them add if they did?
Yeah, I'm with Bert. I don't know many of the tracks down there, just the ones that they go to. I think they're going to do something like Bert says, and I think they want to someone's going to step up to plate and run another week-long deal. They're all down there anyway. They all like staying down there. It's kind of you don't have to travel. It's the start of the year anyway. So it'd be super interesting to see what happens. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're just going to, hey, let's go to Volusia. Maybe we'll start later. Maybe they'll shorten their season up. I could maybe see that happening too with the cost of things and the travel. Maybe they're going to say, hey, let's not start till March. Let speed weeks be speed weeks. And, I would assume Volusia is going to keep going. People are going to run there. So who knows what's going to happen? But I don't really know many of the tracks down there. Like Bert says, maybe they tie something with Georgia or do something a little bit more with some other tracks. But somebody's going to do something. They're going to. They're not going to just all of a sudden skip 6 days. What's East Bay, like 2 weeks in a row, is it not, with different classes and late models to sprints to all that stuff. So somebody's going to do something. From the sounds like it, the drivers like going down there. I mean, obviously there's 120 modifieds that go down there, and there's usually almost 80 to 90 late models at East Bay. So the car counts there, that stuff like that. So somebody's going to do something down there for sure.
Yeah, I would have to think. I mean, there's not much in Florida, right? You got North Florida, you got Southern Raceway up in the Panhandle and Milton. Then Georgia's got, and I don't know, Georgia's a pretty big state, but you got, Boyd, I think closed, but you got Dixie, Sonoy. There's several tracks, but logistically, a guy'd have to look at it. It's going to be interesting to see. So fans, thanks for sending in the questions. If you're a fan and you want some feedback, you got some questions, send it to any one of us. Shoot it over to our email. Hit us up on Facebook. Let's jump into the top.
Brian.
Yes. What do you got there, Bert?
Do you want more information on what I was also telling you about earlier? The ARCA?
You could. Yes. I mean, that kind of ties in with this big team, small team. Yeah, go ahead.
Not supposedly. In the ARCA race, as soon as qualifying was over, Team CCM Racing withdrew. They had qualified 17th for the ARCA race. They withdrew their car from the race, and the word is that they were paid $100,000 by another team to drop out so that their driver could race. And the word is that it was the driver for Shane Van Gisbergen. He's the one who won the NASCAR race in Chicago last year. First ever Cup race. He won. But supposedly he needed the race in the ARCA race in order for NASCAR to let him race in the Xfinity race. He needed the seat time in the ARCA race. So that's why the team paid supposedly $100,000 to get him in that race. And then somebody was commenting that on the entry form to win is only like $25,000 to win the ARCA race.
Money talks, period, right? Kraus, wouldn't that be nice, right? Viking Speedway, Jeff Kraus qualifies for the A main, right? At end of the year special, and be like, I got to run the show. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and give you 20 grand there, Kraus. Park your car. I got to get in the feature. Okay, right? I mean, kind of a bummer. Who's the driver that had to park it then? Who's the driver that sat out? I mean, it sucks for that driver to miss that opportunity to race.
I don't know who the driver was, but their next race on the schedule is Talladega. So this must be a team that just races super speedways, tries to qualify and
NASCAR. I tell you what, anything affiliated with it, I give Dan some shit on our text feed, right? But the fact is, I mean, it's not even racing. It's just not. I mean, it's motorsports entertainment. You know, wrestling is sports entertainment. At least it can be entertaining. This shit, I don't know. I mean, I think we stick to dirt because it's far better. There's no question about it. So our top 5 stories of the week brought to you by our friend Brad Parson. Brad Parson Soil and Ag Solutions. If you're in Western Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and you're in farming, you're looking to be more profitable for the 2024 season and beyond, well, what do you want to do? You need better yields. Better yields, how do you do that? Have the right stuff in your spray packages. Give Brad a call, 320-219-3542, and get the data, get the information, find out how we can help you get what you need to have a better farming season in 2024. Number 5, guys, let's start with the wildest crash of the week. Did you see? So they had at Ocala, they had, I believe it was a 360 wing sprints there. Zach Dahm left the building. That was vicious. Did you guys see the video clip of that on Facebook?
I did see the video clip of him going out of the park, and then I also found a video on Facebook of the safety crew at the car then afterwards, and him getting out of the car. I mean, luckily he got out of the car. Yeah, that was a vicious rollover.
When I first saw that, I thought he landed right in the grandstands. Right?
Yeah, I thought he was going into the stands.
Oh my gosh, right? And those people, I mean, so they must have looked and made like, okay, he's gonna miss, but it didn't look like he missed by much. So I mean, if he had landed in the crowd, that would have killed somebody. But obviously, the catch fence is not quite doing their job there. Have you seen one like that in a while?
I don't know if they had a catch fence.
I think they
just think they had guardrails, or concrete blocks. I don't think there was a catch fence. And see, that's one reason. I mean, I think if you're racing open wheel cars like that, I think a track has to have a catch fence. Just for safety concerns. I mean, especially, depending on when you're having the races too. I'm just using Shawano Speedway as an example because I'm more familiar with them, but Shawano Speedway does not have a catch fence. They just have concrete blocks around the track. And, luckily they don't race any open wheel cars there anymore because of that. I mean, other than, the modified cars, but not sprint cars or midget cars. But like they used to have the IRAs there during the fair, and when the fair is going on at the track, I mean, there's people outside the track the entire time. And if that would happen, like during one of those big events, I mean, that would be catastrophic.
For sure. So evidently old Bubba spent too much money on the settlement there and not enough on catch fences at Ocala. So going to have to reallocate some of those funds perhaps. Number 4, the best sausage stomp of the week, we'll call this. Did you guys watch the Beasts of the Northeast, the big block modifieds? Good grief. There it goes again. All right. Number 3. So, Kraus, I'll let you take this one because I'm pretty sure. Did you watch the big block mods, didn't you, Kraus? You're muted.
I watched the majority of them, but I'm not
If you didn't see this, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you didn't see it. So, Bert, do you want to take it, or do you want me to kind of talk about what
I'll take it. Larry White, I believe he was leading the race at the time. Coming out of 4, he got tangled with a slower car, which kind of pushed him up onto the track, but nobody spun out. And, that's bad enough. He lost a spot or so, and that he kept going. And then he hit turn 1, hit the cushion wrong, and flipped his car over all by himself. No help.
The slower car was Brett Hearn, right? The most decorated big block modified in the history of big block modifieds, right? So he was the lap car, and so Kraus, picture this: he's leading, right? He's kind of rolling middle of the top, right? And Shepard was kind of lurking underneath him. He's kind of there, and he drives square into. Hearn didn't cross it up for nothing. He just was going slower, and he yard sales him, right? And he gets all out of shape. He comes down. There's contact with Shepard, and they're doing the happy dance. No yellow, right? No yellow. He falls back to second, makes it all the way to the other end of the track, right? One whole straightaway, and he way overreacted. He was still trying to gather it up, and he yard sailed it in there sideways, jumped the cushion, and barrel rolls that thing getting into 1. So, I mean, you talk about I made a bad mistake worse. I mean, wow, that was one I guarantee he wants back. Is there any, and what is the biggest, oh my God, I can't believe I did that shit? Do you have anything that comes to mind where you your biggest flubber? Whether it's during the race or not during the race or whatever.
Oh boy, now you're making me think. You're going back. We're getting too old. I don't remember these. You race so many races. I used to know them all, but like I said, you race so many races now. It's like what in the
let's go with this. Your most embarrassing moment, right? I'll tell you mine. My most embarrassing moment, World of Outlaws sprint cars were at Cedar Lake. Super Stocks were there. World of Outlaws were, of course, the support class for the Wasota Supers. So we're out there in a feature. Kraus, I'm outside pole. They water the top a little bit. I'm kind of gassing on it on the parade lap to kind of feel this thing out. I spin out in front of the whole freaking capacity crowd at Cedar. On the parade lap, I spin out in front of the whole freaking pack on the parade lap. I did go on to win that race, but I did get asked about it in Victory Lane. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I gotta win now. Cause I mean, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever done in my entire life. So I guarantee he's going to get some shit about that one. I promise. Nothing that comes to mind.
No, I did that too. I remember the first time I ever drove a street stock, I was actually driving Duran Peterson's car, and never been in a street stock before. And I just got out of my super, and I hopped in the streeter, and I was going to catch the field. And old Monty, looped it coming out of 2 and got hung up on a tractor tire. So the wrecker had to come over there and push me out. And this was under yellow. It was a race that hadn't even started yet. I'm like, oh, geez, the steering is way different. I hadn't had the muscle memory figured out yet because it takes some time to get used to hopping from you go back and forth the super in the street. It takes about a month to get your muscle memory figured out. But that was one of mine. That, like I said, the worst part was I had to wait for the wrecker to come give me a push.
So, A, how much shit do you think that guy got this week? And B, how long do you think it had to be after he got in the pits before his pit crew approached him to even talk to him after that happened?
Well, it depends on what kind of crew you had. Yeah. Hopefully he made light of it and got everybody else. And if he owns all the stuff, completely different deal. Where me, if I came in mad, my pit crew was mad. But if I came in laughing and joking and say I screwed up, then that kind of relaxes everybody. It's no different than being a coach. If you're mad yelling at the refs on the bench, what are your players going to do? You know what I mean? So hopefully he made light of it, and it happens. It's going to happen to the best of us. Everybody's done it. Absolutely everybody's done it. So you just got to, live with it and make some light of it. And hopefully you didn't break a helmet or break something else.
For sure. So number 3, the biggest ouch moment of the week. Bert?
Bobby Pierce, while he was leading the race, takes out half the field because something with the gas line came off or something with the gas line. But he lost power coming out of 4 as they were going to take the green, and all hell broke loose. And when I initially saw it, I saw Hudson O'Neal was involved, but I didn't think it was really that bad. But then they showed the replay, and yeah, he got bumped. Hudson O'Neal got bounced around pretty good. And what was it? He's got ligament damage. Was that the diagnosis?
Yeah, and his thumb, I'm guessing, and I haven't heard anything, but I'm guessing he must be one of those guys that wraps his thumbs around the steering wheel. And when he got hit, the steering wheel must have spun or whatever, because when the thumb grabs it, it was his thumb, wrist, or whatever. He tore some ligaments there. But I'm guessing he took a pretty hard shot. Probably got his thumb cut. I don't know that for sure. But how long do you think that's going to affect him? Do you think? Depending how a person drives, he didn't quite have the best couple nights the next night. Do you think this is something that's going to affect Rocket One for the foreseeable future?
Depending on how bad it is, how bad the injury is, I could see it affecting him for a bit until it's healed. And the problem is, if you continue to race with it, you may keep aggravating it, and then, it just takes forever to heal.
Kraus, you ever, anybody at Viking or anything ever break their thumb, tear some stuff up in their wrist or thumb from wrapping their thumb around the steering wheel? You ever seen that happen?
Yeah, I know Zach Johnson did it one year in the late model, broke his wrist at Viking. And I know it happened. I took one up in Fergus one night coming out of 2. Guy came up on me and pinched me, coming out of 2 in Fergus, the death trap of America. I got pinched in the wall and jammed my wrist a little bit too. Basically that's a mental deal. It's no different than an athlete. I think once he gets used to, so to speak, playing with it or driving with it, I think he'll be fine. And, you can wrap it, you can brace it, you can shoot it up, you can take meds, you can do all that good stuff for it. So right now it's a mental deal with him. He's got to get through that mental stage and say, hey, I can do this. And that, it could be why he was a little bit slower the last couple of weeks. But, I think once he gets through that mental stage of things, I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I hope so. So we need Rocket One to be relevant, because otherwise it's pretty much all Longhorns. Number 2, biggest mind games of the week. So night 2 of the big block modifieds, hook, line, and sinker. So Anthony Perego in the number 4 ride kind of looks like my old buddy Jody Olson's car. Very similar paint scheme, but he's number 4. Jody was number 7. And he was leading the race. And here comes Money Matt Williamson. And he is kind of working him over. Guys, he looked underneath him, moved Perego from the top to the bottom, and drove by him like his shit was broke. It was a thing of beauty. It was like, and then he mentioned it, right? He's like, yeah, I was able to kind of move him off the top there. And when I did, I knew it was over. And that right there is a thing of beauty, right? When your stuff is good and you're tracking down that guy ahead of you, and it's kind of a little bit of a dominant line, and you can move them out of their line and then pass them where you got them to move from. Kraus, is there any better feeling than that? That is fun stuff right there.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you set them up and you do what you did do it. You actually think about, and you basically dream of scenarios like that for the most part. Then when you're doing it, it's like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you could tell Perego was not happy. And he had 2 seconds the first couple nights. He had a pretty good week, actually. But you could tell that he was kind of butthurt about that, because he knew what happened. And it's like, it's kind of like Turbo said a while back, second sucks, and he wanted that win bad, but Williamson, he got her done. And then the number 1 moment, top moment of the week, brought to you by our friends over at Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating in Ashland, Wisconsin, home of the Galloper chassis, proud sponsor of the number 1 series in all of Wissota racing, the Northland Superstock Series. Custom powder coating, fabricating, sandblasting. If you need parts, tires, you name it, they do it all right up there in Ashland, Wisconsin. Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating. Guys, how about that finish at the Daytona 500, huh? All right, Kraus, relax. Kidding. That's not it. I'm kidding. Number one moment of the week, I got to go with this. Best finish of the week. Kraus, late models. What would you say the best finish of the week was for the late models down at Volusia?
We can either give this the best finish or the this could go on with the Prego or the whatever his name is, your buddy there, is it Perego? Is that his name?
Yeah. Prego.
I don't know. Did you watch a replay? Did you watch how slow Madden backed up his entry into 3 on that deal? That was absolutely crazy, but he was really shaking in his boots. So yeah, Nick Hoffman, I thought, I thought he was going to get him a little bit earlier. He ran him down, and boy, those guys at Volusia really struggle with the aero stuff when they get behind somebody. You really got to watch your quarter entry, and you get up behind somebody, you lose that air on your nose at Volusia and them late models. I mean, you lose about 5 to 10 car lengths right now. It's absolutely crazy what that aero does. And he ran him down, and boy, Madden really backed that corner up going into 3. I don't know if it looked like to me like he was going to hit the cushion and come across the bottom, but usually how those guys, they go roasting in, they block the slider, and then they drift to the top. That's not really Madden's driving style for the most part, but he backed that down, and Hoffman did what he had to do, and he's getting more comfortable in that late model, and that pass right there just really shows that Nick Hoffman knows how to win races. That's he's got experience. He's done it in the mod. I think it was a different late model driver who hasn't won much. I don't think he would have done that, but that was my take on that deal, that he knows how to win. And like I said, I looked at the lap time too. Madden was it was almost 0.8 to 0.9 that last lap between Hoffman and Madden, and that was the difference. Madden makes a lap 0.2 faster, he wins the race. But good for Nick. Good to get that win under his belt, and boy, could really shoot some confidence into him. And he could be a force to be reckoned with here the next month or so. And he was hot last year and then faded. And hopefully we can get him up front, and he can have some fun with the big boys all year.
Absolutely. And Madden did have a pair of seconds. I mean, I know he wanted that win, but in the World of Outlaw events, he had a pair of seconds there. So, guys, let's do this. Let's go back to Florida. Closing thoughts from Speed Weeks from Florida from this past weekend. Little word association deal. I'll mention a class. Just say the first thing or two that comes to mind. Little shout out to our friends here. Chassis builder over in Western Minnesota, Coach Kraus. Who do we got?
Yeah, Flat Out Performance and the turbine chassis. Jeff Flatten and his crew, there's Ryan. Got to know those guys real well. I know you know them too, Ryan, real well too. And I got a turbine sitting in my shop. My other cars are turbines, so make sure if you need super stocks. I tell you what, those super stocks are nice cars, and they still are. Like you said, I've won championships, won a lot of races in a turbine too, just as many as I won in my affordable. So now they're getting into building mods. They got a few mods out there too. He does Midwest mods. I know he's helping with the streeters too. They had got some of those out there too. So make sure get a hold of Flat Out Performance and Turbine Chassis over there in Hancock, Minnesota, and get a hold of Mr. Jeff Flatten.
Awesome. So, all right, I'm gonna say it, class. You say what comes to mind. High limit sprint cars this past week at East Bay. Bert?
0 for 2 for Brad Sweet. Started on the front row in both features and did not get a victory.
Coach Kraus?
Honestly, don't care. Unless we want to get into the turmoil already with the high limit series.
Yeah, have at her. What's going on there?
I've heard this is from a pretty reliable source now. I'm not going to say sources. We don't get into those things. But because we're reporters. We're like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp here. So we're going to Bert can be Dan Orlovsky. You kind of fit like a Dan Orlovsky kind of guy. But no, heard some rumblings. Super reliable source here that a lot of upset drivers with the high limit series. They got their contracts this week, and they weren't what they were told. Let's just put it that way. A lot of drivers said, hey, yeah, I can do 75. I can do 80% of these shows. I don't want to go out to California. High limit said, you don't have to travel out there. Well, they got their contracts this week, and from what I've heard, 100%, you better get there. You're going to California. and there's a lot of upset drivers right now. So we'll see what happens here at the high limit deal. But after watching the deal there, I don't know. We'll see how it pans out here. But I wasn't too impressed. They're obviously using, Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet just basically needed their own series from the looks of it to me. And it is what it is. So we'll see what happens here. Like I said, a lot of turmoil right now going on with the high limit series.
Interesting format, right? They kind of got a deal where if you finish in the top 4, you're locked. You don't have to qualify the next night. We're gonna do a little bit more recon on that this weekend to see how that carries over. But they kind of got some weird stuff. And unfortunate, right? Is what I like about their series is their drivers can go anywhere they want. They're not locked in. What I don't like is there's no World of Outlaw races going on this weekend, right? There's no World of Outlaw races. High Limits got a pair of races this weekend. Guess what? There ain't going to be any World of Outlaw guys there. So you can't see the crossover like you get with the Lucas and the Woo late models because they're handcuffed in the sprints because of their loyalty program, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. I want to see the best cars compete. Volusia, big block modifieds. Bert.
I'm not sure if RTJ and Brunig were exchanging Christmas cards before this, but I don't think they will be after this past week.
Well, they aren't in big block modifieds there, Bert. They're in
wrong. Oh, never mind.
But that's okay. That's okay. Here, we'll do this. We'll skip the late models. We'll come back. So,
You went out of order.
I did. I wanted to save the best class for last. I did. I changed it up on my sheet, but you weren't listening. You weren't listening to me, Bert. My feelings are, you just don't listen to me anymore, Bert. I don't know what to say here, right? All right. So RTJ and Bruning, talk a little bit about that because I have a take on it. That was interesting. So go ahead and tell everybody a little bit kind of your perspective on that ordeal.
Well, I'm trying to remember how it exactly happened. Was RTJ leading at the time?
He was.
And Brunig was lapped already, but no, he was being lapped. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he just basically drifted right up into RTJ and pushed him out of the way, kind of.
So here's how I look at this, right? Maybe this is just reckless speculation on my part. A couple weeks back, right? They're racing, and I don't remember what track it was at. Maybe was it Golden Isles? It was one of the bigger tracks, and RTJ had a little bump run in there, right, with Marlar, who was the other team driver for Bruning, right? I look at it, and I'm like, Marlar came across his nose. I thought it was Marlar's fault anyway, but Marlar was all butthurt at RTJ, and so was JD that race. And obviously, Tyler Bruning's dad owns those cars. So in this feature, RTJ goes to lap him. Here comes Bruning, throws an absolute haymaker, literally shoves him right up over a 8-inch curb cushion, right? Rolls right up over that. In the next straightaway, Marlar finished the job. He did it again, peeled the side of his car off, rolled his nose, and RTJ rolled his nose on there. Prost. Was that on purpose? Is that a message to RTJ from the Bruning camp, Viper Motorsports?
Yeah, 100% was. And I thought at the time, Bruning was upset about the slide job RTJ put him on the lap before to clear him in 1 and 2. But he was clearing by a mile, and you're irrelevant lap car. Like Dan K says, you're not part of the race. Don't be part of the race. When you get lapped, you get out of the way or do what everybody else does, pull into the infield and get out of the way. That's when I first watched ice. That's what I thought of. But Bruning's was 100% intentional. I mean, he wasn't clear. He just door slammed him. He flat out, he ripped the whole side of his car off. Is what he did. So, and then when you, like I said, I could 100% see team cars doing that, ganging up on somebody, and especially the fastest guy arguably in the country right now. He's winning all the time. He's leading that race. People are sick of him. He's the villain right now. I could definitely see that, but it was 100% intentional. I just thought Bruning was butthurt. He got lapped, and then RTJ threw a slide job to clear him. on a track with it's a 1-lane cushion. Well, figure it out, Bruning. So, and he did get faster after that. He was actually the next couple nights he was faster. So, but that was 100% intentional.
Anything else on your end there, Kraus? When I say Volusia late models?
No, engines. There's a few guys.
Bronson blew up 3.
Yeah,
3 for Bronson.
So I definitely maybe some guys going to work there with their engine program. And obviously Volusia it's fast. It's you're on the cushion. That right rear tire gets on that cushion and gets those crankshafts hopping, and you're flying down that back straightaway and getting into one. And you heard guys. Someone said, I can't remember who. I think it was Hoffman said he didn't even barely lift that last corner getting in. And those lap times and how fast those guys are running. So I think there's going to be some guys that are taking care of their engine programs here these next few weeks. Make sure they're ready to go.
Yeah, that was an engine-killing racetrack for sure. So we talked about RTJ. He just had he's got to be – his fun meter's got to be pegged. He's got to be ready to get Golden Isles done and get the hell back to Indiana, regroup, and start the season over. Devin Moran, they should change his nickname. The family does not like the nickname Mailman, right? We know that. I think his new nickname should be Sunshine, right? Sorry, Tyler Courtney, but, is there anybody that just – when you look at Moran, he's pretty good everywhere, right? But he is so good in Florida. Like at Speed Weeks, there's something like he finds another gear. Can he carry that momentum? I think they should start calling him Sunshine because he's so good in the Sunshine State. And the last thing on the late models, little tire drama. There was a little, sounds like a press release. Sounds like they talked about it at the drivers' meeting. A big thing coming out, no icing tires, no heat use. There's a lot of different things that evidently these drivers are doing. Speculation. I heard this from a couple different sources, right? That one team, and they did not know. I tried to find out who the team was. They were visibly caught spraying stuff on their tires, whether it was whatever it was, right? They were spraying something on their tires. That guy got booted. And there was evidently people icing them because they wanted the 2s to be a little harder, kind of make them a 2.5. And the way I look at it, right? Okay, so there's a little drama there for what they're paying for their tires and the fact that these tires literally get thrown away after one night, right? None of these open late model guys are running tires like all weekend long. They just don't do that. Don't you think they should just be able to do whatever the hell they want to the tires because they're throwing them away after one race anyway? Thoughts?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for the most part, yes. The other question is, I got a hard time believing this was the sanctioning body policing this. There's car owners or there's drivers or somebody complaining about this. That's what's good. They came to obviously the World Outlaws and the Lucas officials, I'm sure, are still there, but someone came to them and said, "Hey, we got to stop this. What's going on? Somebody's complaining, can't compete. The fast guys are doing it, and that's how this all came about, I would assume." I got a hard time believing the sanctioning bodies would come out and say, "Hey, you can't." I posted that pool that was for sale down there. Someone was selling their slightly used pool because they were dipping their tires into it. But yeah, obviously the chemicals are a different deal. If you're softening or stiffening or making your tires last longer, that's in the rules. But cleaning, siping, grooving. I'm hardening, heating, freezing. You know what I mean? Like you said, they're trying to get a competitive advantage. And there's probably teams out there that just aren't interested in doing this or aren't putting their time in to do it. That's where this probably stemmed from. But I think for the most part, like you said, Ryan, they're running them once. Let them do whatever the heck they want to them.
Volusia. Bert. Okay, Bert.
Well, go ahead. The thing is, it's impossible to police all of that. Are you going to have an official at every hauler from the minute they arrive at the track until the minute they leave? It's impossible. Like Coach Kraus said, the chemicals, yeah, you can do tests for that. So, have limits on that. But, as far as freezing and heating and all this other stuff, how do you police that?
It's a can of worms. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on it over the next couple of weeks, see if more comes of this. So, Bert, You paying attention here, Bert?
Big block?
Big block mods.
My reaction was actually really good racing, a lot of side-by-side racing in the big blocks. I thought they were very entertaining to watch.
I agree totally. Coach Kraus.
Stuart Friesen with a great big question mark behind his name is mine. I don't know, how did he end up on Saturday? I missed their show. Did he? That rained out. That's right. So he didn't even do it. But I mean, I think he's one of the top three guys down there with Gators, is he not? And I get, he's running the trucks and things like that. But I mean, he wasn't even in the ballpark. I know he came 21st, I think 9th on the first day, and then other than that, but I was expecting him to be up there and be contending, because he is usually every year with those guys, and it was kind of the same old. So that was my big takeaway from it, was where was Stuart Friesen, and then for the most part Brett Hearn as well. I know he's getting up there in age, but two big time big block mod guys that really weren't in the mix all weekend.
Well, Hearn only races 3-4 shows a year, 5 shows a year over the last 7, 8, 10 years or something. So I could see him. Friesen was a surprise. Money Matt Williamson, Canada. The night that he parked it in Victory Lane, the whole crew down there in Victory Lane singing Canada. I tell you one thing that Canadians know how to do is they know how to have a good time, party, drink beer, and have a lot of fun. So always cool when he wins. And then Matt Shepard, career win number 500. I think he won Friday as well, too. So 500 and 501, but a milestone and a great announcer there for the beat from the Northeast. So let's jump into it. 2024 Pick'ems, brought to you by one of our new sponsors here, Coach Kraus.
Yeah, elevate-visual.com video productions. Make sure if you need any video work done, any drone work done, if you're a real estate agent and you need anything, go to elevate-visual.com. He also has a Facebook page. He does awesome work. He's got some promo videos up there and some things like that. So get a hold of Brandon at elevate-visual.com.
Absolutely. So last week, our movers and shakers here, New Dan, who kind of was in the cellar last week, kind of got it together here. So New Dan, Big Bad Brad, and Mike, +7 for those three. Good Jeff, +6. Changa, the 29 star. Dan and Kent, +5. The old 71E, I got 4 points. I did it all in one night. I thought I was going to have a good week. I did not. And Bert, 3 points for you, and the reigning champ, Curtis, 2 points. So our champions here, Curtis and Bert, kind of having a bad week. Probably going to bounce back. I hope not, but probably going to. Current standings right now, our reigning champ leading at 61. Curtis leading the way. Big Bad Brad and Changa at 54, 7 points back. The 29 star, Coach Kraus, you are 1 point ahead of me. You got 47. I got 46. Dan at 44. Bert, you're at 43 on the outside of the top 5 looking in. Kent at 39. Good Jeff up in the UP at 37. New Dan kind of catching him a little bit at 35. And Mike at 24. So a look ahead to this week's events. We got 3 races we're going to talk about. First, a shout out to our friends here, Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants. So right here, one of their great products, and you can check them out. They got a Facebook page. You can check them out online. Buck is actually the founder in the Hall of Fame for lubricants at NASA. Yes, you heard it right. Maybe Bloomquist knows something about NASA. Maybe there's a correlation there. Not sure. But this is one of their great products, XL1 Engine Treatment Concentrate right here. They call it horsepower in a bottle on a dyno. More horsepower, more torque, less friction, reduced engine noise, cold weather startups. Good for your daily driver as well. Check it out and learn more about this stuff by calling Chad at 507. As soon as I get my phone back here, that's okay. People are listening, not watching. 507-828-3536. And guys, I'm going to have to use a little bit of JB Weld or something to glue that to the back because the old stickum is not working. So we're going to have to get some stickum from some of them Packer fans or something. So the races we're picking this week, Lucas Oil late models, a pair of races, Golden Isles, Friday and Saturday. High limit sprints at Golden Isles Thursday and Saturday. And then they got the 604s. We're not picking those, but they're running Thursday and Friday. USMTS mods underway this weekend at Hunt County in Texas, Friday and Saturday. We were going to pick the XR Super Series race in North Carolina. That has been canceled. Sounds like it might be rescheduled. Not sure if it was weather. Not a lot of guys looked like they were going to go to that event. Interesting, they were going to run it on top of the Lucas. So out of them 3 races, guys, or two events, right? Golden Isles and the USMTS, which one of them are you guys looking forward to most?
I mean, I'm a late model guy, so I'll say Golden Isle, but I'm also looking forward to the USMTS. Interested to watch Jake Tim race down there.
Yeah, brand new hot rod out there, that new Rage, and it sounds like they kind of changed their format. The USMTS did, so they got, instead of just giving $100,000 to the national champion, they're going to break it up into 4 regions. They have an overall champion, right? But they're also going to throw money in each of 4 individual regions. So it looks like it's in excess of $150,000 that they can win to win this deal. There's a lot of money on the line for the USMTS modifieds. So let's jump into this segment here, guys. Blast to the past. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about WISSOTA racing from the 2000s. First, a shout out to our friends at Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown, South Dakota. Ron and Trevor Anderson, great ambassadors to the sport, home of the Aero chassis. They service a lot of racetracks. If you need safety equipment, parts, tires, you name it, you just want to talk racing, great place to stop into, get your stuff. They ship. They can do a lot of things online. That's Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown. So, guys, modifieds and late models from the 2000s. I'm going to kind of run through. I'll pause after each one. If you have a thought that comes to mind when I talk about these drivers, go ahead and share it, maybe a favorite story, and then we'll touch on if there's anybody else that sticks out from the 2000s. So, in the modified division, this driver won it in 2000, 02, 04, 06, and number 5 of his illustrious career in 2007. Can you guys name that driver?
It's either got to be our mentor, Thatcher.
I was going to say Thatcher.
Craig Thatcher. I remember the old Beetlejuice video or the picture. There's a picture in all the dirt where he had a huge lead and his head was like literally contortionist facing the other direction, looking to see how far behind him the guy was. Craig Thatcher, a hell of a race car driver in that 91, and a guy that we missed watching go around the racetrack. Any thoughts, any stories? Did you guys get to see much of Craig Thatcher?
Well, I mean, we would go to the Punky Manor every year, and I mean, Thatcher was definitely the driver to beat in the modifieds during that time, and the other drivers, they had their hands full to try to beat him.
Carlos, you got any Thatcher stories? I got 2.
No, I was just always excited when he came up for the Minnesota Modified Nationals when he was coming up, because those are kind of the days where you like to see the travelers. You see Buzzy roll in, or Thatcher. You get to see all those guys race against our guys. So that's basically my only memories of him, and seeing him at Cedar and stuff like that. But it's always fun to watch him at the half mile. I know he got a couple wins up there. I think he may have won the Mod Nationals one year. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I think he did, because there was like 9 different winners 9 years in a row. So it was always fun having him come up, watching him compete at Viking with all the big shots that we have.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best ever strapping a modified. I mean, and making trips to Florida. I mean, he was unbelievable down there. He's actually got a couple Gators to his name as well, speaking of Volusia. But 2 of Thatcher's stories that I have, one of the first, it might have been my rookie year, possibly my rookie year. And I ended up going out in the heat race, and I drew in the back. He was in my heat, right? He started kind of maybe a row ahead of me in the heat race. Well, remember them old 605 steering boxes, Kraus? They'd always start leaking, right? And I had a 605 steering box, and that thing, every single race, I had to clean the car. There was power steering fluid everywhere. Finally, I went to the parts store. I buy a brand new steering box, just a stock one, put it in, and it felt a little funny, but I thought it was okay. I come into turn one, right, and I tried to roll the middle in Grand Rapids at the Classic, and that thing locked up on me, and I yard sailed him wide open, destroyed both of us. He was not real happy. Incidentally, I put the old leaky steering box back on for the B main, but he was not overly impressed. WISSOTA 100, guys, and this guy was the elite driver, right? WISSOTA 100, my rookie year, at Brainerd. I won it the year before in the Supers, and that next year we were feeling pretty good. We had won a few races in that Galloper, and we get done with our heat races, right? And I go up and I'm looking at the qualifying feature lineup. I'm like, Thatcher's not in the qualifying feature. Like, what did he do, right? Why is he not in the qualifying feature? And I look, and he's like all the way down at the bottom, and like he's like starting last in the B main. I'm like, shit, Thatcher broke. Oh, cool. Like I was happy to see that because I didn't want to have to compete against him, right? Guys, he went out to line up in Brainerd, and he kind of parked over by Esty because he knew he was in Esty's heat. And he's just kind of kicked back, closed his eyes. He's like, when Esty pulls out, I'll pull out on the racetrack, right? Well, needless to say, Skeeter was in an A-mod. He missed his heat completely because he was parked behind one of Esty's cars. It was the wrong one. Fell asleep, completely missed his heat at the 100. Ended up raining out anyway, but I'm like, man, that would have been a pretty good one right there. I didn't even have to race against the best modified driver there, so that was pretty cool. So, 01... 05, 01 and 05, this driver also, I believe, became the first driver to ever win a pair of national championships in the first year, because in 01, he also won in the late models, and then he won in 04 in the late models as well. So in that decade, he has 4 national championships. He has more than that in the next decade, but it's showtime. Kent Arment, one of the best drivers from the state of South Dakota. That's a guy right there that it didn't matter where he went. I mean, he traveled well, and he could have went anywhere and raced. Kraus, you probably got to see him a little bit because you went to the Western 100. You kind of went to some races out there. When you think Kent Arment, what comes to mind to you?
Well, running the cushion, running the high side. I saw him. Remember, went out to Watertown one time. There's a super stock special out there. And I had never seen someone with the high side like he did in his modified, especially at Watertown. That was back in Watertown only. I don't know if you remember, Ryan, Watertown 3 and 4 only had the wall, and 1 and 2 was open because we pit off the backstretch. I don't know if you remember that. You came up off the backstretch there, old school in the Watertown. When it was 2000, boy, this was like 2002, 2003. I went out there. Didi was in a super. And McDonald was in a super. Remember, we got our butts chewed out. 13 of us showed up for 1,000 to win, and Earl Benson chewed us out. He didn't really like. He was wondering where all our buddies were. But I watched Ken Arment that night. Basically ripped the wall down in his modified, and it's just fun to watch. He was exciting. It's a guy that every time you saw him, no matter where it was, in Aberdeen or wherever he went and wherever he showed up. You knew he was going to run up front, and he was exciting. He was super, super fun to watch, and he's a guy you had to watch him. No matter where he started, it was just a guy that you had to keep your eyes on him because he was fun to watch.
So I don't know if you know this, right? But he's essentially, so with WISSOTA racers, right, if you hate the point average lineup system, you can go ahead probably blame Kent Arment, right? Now, he didn't bring it to it, right? That wasn't his idea. But the first guy to bring the point average lineup system into WISSOTA was Terry Volz. Terry Volz, of course, was the promoter at the Brown County Speedway. Now he's on the promoter group, still involved. But essentially, he got sick of Kent Arment literally winning every single race and not really being challenged. So that's when they decided, well, screw it. We're going to make him starting back because we need to put a show on for the crowd, because if he starts in the front, it's over. So he was so fast that he was responsible for the point average lineup system we have today. No hate mail, no death threats to Kent Arment. He didn't like it either, okay? But the fact is, he's the guy that it was kind of his fault. So 7 of the 10 natties in the 2000s in the mods between Thatcher and Arment. The other 3, the 1 car, bright blue, yellow, orange, This guy was just absolutely on the chip. You remember Paul Harlstead? He was another guy. He probably made a couple trips over Central Wisconsin. He raced he's a Menominee guy, but he made a couple trips over there to like Monster Hall as well on occasion. You probably got to see him a little bit over there as well. And then in 08, I call him the human highlight reel, Kevin Buzzy Adams. He got his first modified national championship in 08. And then in 09, Blake Jetvig getting it done. And Blake, I think he still runs quite a bit at Viking, doesn't he, Kraus?
Yeah, he's pretty much a regular at Viking. Slowed down a little bit. Used to run a lot more, but between I-94 and Viking, and I've actually got to know Blake real well. I've had my cousins lived in Holly, so I've got to know Blake pretty well these last few years. Him and his dad and stuff like that. So good guy. He's fun to watch too. He's usually like I said, he doesn't race as much as he did, but just a good guy, likes racing, and we're super excited to have him weekly at Viking.
Absolutely. So let's jump over into the late models. 2000, the Double One Express, Pat Dorr getting it done. And then Arment won it in 01 and in 04. So, okay, we talked a little bit about Arment already. So this was the only natty actually it was not. I'll go to 02. But I'll skip that one for just a second. When you guys think Pat Dorr, and he's still incredibly fast today. Word association, I say Pat Dorr. First thing that comes to mind for you guys, Bert, is what?
Late model.
He's won in everything. Super stocks, mods, late model.
No, I mean, at the Minnesota 100, he usually raced a modified. It was number 30, right?
Yep.
So he's raced modifieds, and I actually on Facebook I saw a picture of him in one of his first super stocks. I guess I didn't even realize he raced super stocks. So yeah, late models come to mind for me.
Yeah, he's got a natty in the supers in the early 90s there, one of the first national championships. Coach Kraus, when you think Pat Dorr?
Smooth. He's kind of a Mr. Joe Cool. You know what I mean? Just kind of, laid back. Great one-liners in his interviews. He's got great one-liners in his interviews, but just cool to see him still racing and still wanting to do it and compete and just fun to watch. It's like I said, it's fans up here up in this area, they always say, "Oh, we brought the Challenge Series back to Viking this year." What's the first thing they say? Is Pat Dorr coming? Is John Canta coming? You know what I mean? It's just, right. Two names with racing. That's who guys want to see. It's no different than is Bobby Pierce or Ricky Thornton going to be here? In this area is Pat Dorr going to be there? So super cool that he's still racing and able to do this.
I believe it was Madison around this era, right around the 2000s. He was there for a Challenge Series race, and he ended up breaking in the heat race. I don't know if it was an engine or what it was, and had to start in the back, switch cars. And they changed the rule because of this guy. He changed cars, and I believe he won from dead last, didn't he, at Madison? And there was a full field. It wasn't like a 16, 18 car feature. It was a flat-out 24 or 26 car feature, stormed to the front, won from dead last, and then they changed the rule that whatever car you start with, you have to end with. So Pat Dorr, one of the best. In 02, this might be the only tie in the history of WISSOTA points. Ties are so dumb. They did change it. There's now a tiebreaker. Pat Dorr was one of the two drivers. Can you guys name the driver that he tied with for the national championship in 02? I'll give you a clue. In this era, rival with Kent Arment.
It's Kurt Gelling.
Kurt Gelling. Yep.
I knew it was somebody from out in that direction.
Yeah, so Dorr and Gelling tied that year. And then in 03 and in 05, you mentioned him already. I call him WISSOTA's Mr. Smooth, John Canta. Incredible race car driver. He's kind of like T-Mac-esque, roll in the middle. He's kind of got that style of driving. Easy on equipment and still getting after it at a high level. And then in '06, I did not remember that this guy won a national championship. He's racing a modified now, ran a super stock as well. Bert?
Is it Adam Hensel?
It is Adam Hensel. You got any good memories there about old Hensy?
No, I don't have any. I really don't have any memories about him, but I remember him and AJ Demel were in a battle for the national title one of the years, and I knew that Hensel came out on top, so that's why I knew that.
Yeah, he's a good shit. I like Hensy. And then '07, '08, this driver, a regular over at the Viking Speedway, now running a modified, ran a late model, actually won a Don Shaw's cars earlier this year. Bert, you got her? What do you got?
Is it Zach Johnson?
The Millennial Farmer. It sure is. So I know Kraus, he's a guy that has made a lot of laps in your area. You know, when you think Zach Johnson, what comes to mind?
Well, you got to remember, he was, he ran a Midwest mod there for a little bit, and he was really, really good in that. And then he kind of, I wouldn't say kind of under the radar. Kind of does that make sense to you when he first started in the late model? Now it's a different deal. He's the Millennial Farmer, you know what I mean? But I'd say he was kind of a little under the radar back in the day coming through there, because especially in our area when you had Don Shaw and Jeff Wildung, Jeff Hinkelmeyer, Ricky Weiss, these guys were running weekly at Viking, and all of a sudden Zach came on and he was a little bit younger, and he put a beat down on the guys. And he was in a Pierce car for a few of those too. So, there wasn't a lot of Pierce late models around, and I know he did that. He jumped back and forth, with Masters built, because him and, sites were close and some things like that. And then, some of his other cars, but, he's just, he can wheel anything. He's almost like a Tim Johnson type. You throw him in anything, he's going to be fast, whether it's a Midwest mod or whatever it may be. So, just a guy that's logged a lot of laps and kind of back in the day was kind of low key and just kind of under the radar, and he whooped everybody.
Yeah, hell of a good race car driver. And then 2009, another guy that he used to be a regular at the Viking Speedway. I remember it saying D. Michael B's down the side of his car. Coach Kraus.
Well, I must be talking about Jeff Wildung in the 50 car, who, is technically he had the Vite car that now that the Mars has and stuff like that. So just a guy I grew up watching, him and Jeff Hinkelmeyer and, guys like Dennis Bitson and, some big time names from Viking Speedway that I was fortunate enough to watch, learned a ton from them. And Jeff, I got to know Jeff actually pretty well. His son Brandon was a hockey player, was a goalie. Was a Division I goalie at Mercyhurst, actually, and is actually still coaching to this day. And I've been in contact with him. I see him every once in a while, too. So I got to know Jeff well. And then, like I said, when hockey rolled around, I got to know him, too. So just a guy fun to watch. And I still remember to this day, Ryan, when Don Shaw and Jeff Wildung got into it in the tech shed at Viking Speedway. And they were yelling at each other, and they both said, "Well, I'm wrecking you next week." Well, when you grew up going to Viking Speedway and you watched Jeff Wildung and Don Shaw go at it and say, "Hey, well, everybody was like, the place was packed the next week," but it was rival like that, and just fun to watch, and two competitive guys, and Jeff Wildung was just competitive, and he wanted to win, and it's probably one of the all-time greats at Viking, and not only in Viking, but turned into the national scene and started winning some championships, and everywhere he went, he had a chance to win.
Absolutely. Bert.
I actually have, a Jeff Wildung story, but it's not a story about him racing or anything. But in the early 2000s, I worked for a company that we covered the sports collectibles industry. So trading card companies would send us boxes of their product, and we'd open them, because they wanted us to review their products. And one of them was Press Pass. They made NASCAR trading cards, but a Viking was sanctioned by NASCAR for at least at one point. So Jeff Wildung had a trading card in that series with all the other NASCAR drivers who raced in NASCAR, but because he won a NASCAR track championship, he got a trading card in that product.
Nice, nice. Yeah, they were that NASCAR deal. They had a pretty good couple of years where they paid some pretty good money on the track and on the regional scene. And a few of the Viking Speedway regulars got some pretty hefty paychecks. I think he was one of them. Did Shaw get a pretty big paycheck from NASCAR? Did he have a deal too that he?
I think he may have one good one. Jeff Hinkemeyer, I know, did.
Yeah.
And the cool part about it is they got to go down to, because they had regions. They got to go down to Charlotte to the big banquet, the NASCAR deal on that with the separate banquet with all the big rigs too. So it was a huge deal. And I know Wild Dung did, and I know Jeff Hinkemeyer did, because we ended up rotating classes. So your premier classes used to always be the late models, and they rotated. I know they did the modifieds one year, and I'm not sure if Dan Ziesen won that. And then the year they did the super stocks, I think was the year Shaw had his super and did it too. So, but it was a big deal. But both Hinkemeyer and I know Wild Dung were one. I know Jeff Hinkemeyer won like the whole region or something deal, and it was, like you said, it was a big time paycheck.
Awesome. So let's jump into our last segment, our 3 bold predictions. And first we'll get into the accountability session where we talk about what we got right and what we got wrong. And I'll start with Bert. Bert, a little bit of a bloodbath there for old Bert. You said the old smooth operator, Bobby Pierce, would be held to 1 win at Volusia. Nope. You said that the Woo regulars would win 2 or less this week at Volusia. Well, Pierce won 2, and the thrill from Mooresville, Nick Hoffman, got 1 in there as well. Pierce won at least 2. He won 2, I think. Who won the final night? Moran won 1.
Moran.
Yeah, he's a Lucas guy. So they got 3. So Wisconsin drivers would finish in the top 10 in the Xfinity and in the trucks. Tough beat there because you probably should have had a couple top 10s in the trucks, but you did get a top 10 there in the Xfinity. So Good Jeff here had a couple come off the board as well. He said that Kyle Larson would have 2 podiums and high limit action at East Bay, including 1 win. I thought he was going to get her because night 1 he got the win and a podium, right? But then night number 2, he he looked human. Let's just put it that way. Kyle Larson not having his best night on night number 2. He said Bobby Pierce would have 0 podiums at Volusia after coming back from New Zealand. That's bold, but yeah, I don't know. Dustin Sorensen will have a better average finish than the B1 bomber, Brent Larson. It was close. It was actually close, but he did edge him out. So Sorensen did. So that was correct for Jeff. Coach Krause, you had a good week here. You had a couple come off the board. He said Daytona 500 would have a first-time Daytona 500 winner, and that was the case. You got that one correct. And you said at Volusia, the World of Outlaw A mains would be 1 no repeat winners. Moran won 1, Hoffman won the other. So 2 on the board, 2 correct. Kenny had 1 come off the board. He said at Volusia, there would be at least 1 driver in the modifieds and the lates that's never won before at Volusia. And that did not happen because both Shepard and Williamson in the big blocks got her done. And I pushed everything out. I had nothing coming off the board this week. So I kind of pushed everything out this week. So our standings right now, as far as the correct picks go, Bert, you're leading the way. You got 7 correct on the year, 1 ahead of me. I'm at 6. The 29 Star and Good Jeff both at 5, and the Peanut Gallery at 3. So Bert leading the way as far as correct picks go. As far as the percentages go, the Peanut Gallery leading the way on that one, 37.5 for the listeners. A narrow margin over Good Jeff at 35.7. I'm third at 31.6. Bert, you're at 25.9 with a slight edge on Coach Krause at 25. Krause had a good week, though, kind of edging himself back into this one. So we make 3 predictions every week, right? 3 laps around the track, and typically racing related. The only parameters, it's got to be something that's not an opinion. It either did or did not happen. And we have a few listeners here that sent some in. So I'm going to get Kent has one. I'm going to get his off the board first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Bert, Coach Krause, Good Jeff, Dan, and myself to round this thing out. So Kent's first pick, we'll start it out with Kent. new to the game. He said that Brandon Shepherd, will not have a podium either night this week at Golden Isles. No podiums for Brandon Shepherd. Bert, your first one.
RTJ will rebound and have podiums in every feature that is run for the Lucas this week. So if one gets rained out, it's just one race.
Okay, so RTJ is going to go 2 for 2 on the podiums and 1 for 1 if they get one. Okay, so RTJ going to have a rebound. Coach Kraus shaking his head in disagreement with there. He's thinking the old fun meter's pegged for RTJ. Coach Kraus, your first one. What do you got?
We should you should get bonus points if I go bolder than Bert. I should get a bonus point. I'm just throwing that out there because I'm going above you, Bert. I'm going RTJ sweep in the weekend. He's winning both of them. Not only he's going to win both, not this podium stuff. Anybody can get on the podium. All right. It's top 3. Bert, I said it in a text the other night. You're either first or you're last, correct? We don't care about podiums. Okay. You're either first or you're last. RTJ's sweeping the weekend.
We're going to stick with the RTJ theme here, right? We got Good Jeff says his prediction. He says both you two are knuckleheads. He said that he disagrees. He said RTJ's his fun meter is completely and overboard. His bad luck continues. He's going to have at least one DNF at Golden Isles this weekend. So RTJ going to not have a good weekend. So we got Dan here. All right, I got a question. So last week we had a listener, right? And he come out, and we like bold predictions, but he said Scott Bloomquist going to win 10 features in 2024. So when a fan sends one in that's literally not only unrealistic, but it's just, I mean, come on, there's absolutely no way that this is going to happen. Should we still say it, or should we just X that one off and not talk about it? Because his first one he has here is, I don't know. Some people would say that it's more bold, or at least as bold as that. Should I cross it off, or do we go with it?
Let's hear it. I mean, it's his opinion, right? This is an opinionated show, so let's hear his opinion, see what he thinks. All
right. So Dan's first one, the 29-star Jeff Kraus, at least 5 feature wins in 2024.
All right. Now, first off, I got to get 5 shows in. First off. Okay.
I'm like, I don't know if that's, I mean, that's bold, I guess. You
all right.
Can't even race anymore.
It's called motivation. I'm going to do it.
All right. There you go. All right. My first one here, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on my pick'ems. So between these 3 drivers, they each get 2 races this weekend. Superman, Jonathan Davenport, Rocket, Rodney Sanders, and the Big Cat, Brad Sweet. Each of those drivers will win at least one of the 2 races that they're in this weekend. Davenport, Sanders, and Sweet. All right, Bert. Your second lap.
I'll stick with the Brad Sweet, and I will say Brad Sweet will once again get shut out of victories this week.
Contradicting me. All right. Coach Kraus.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my sweep theme. I'm just kind of I'm getting geared up for hockey playoffs, and you need to sweep in the playoffs in order to win the playoffs. So I'm going Rico. Mr. Rico Abreu is sweeping the weekend for the high limits.
All right. So Good Jeff here, going to have a little XR Super Series pick. So this past weekend, or this coming weekend, they canceled the race. They said it's from weather, and it's supposed to be a little chilly at night. Probably is. But there was not going to be a lot of drivers going to that because the XR Series was going to run head-to-head with Lucas. They upped the ante. They're going to have 22, I believe, scheduled races here in 2024 now. They started with 6, then they upped it. Now they're at 22. So Good Jeff's second prediction is this. The XR Super Series will cancel at least 50% of their races in 2024 not to be rescheduled. So the XR Super Series will run no more than 10 of the scheduled 22 because it'll be less than 50% in 2024. So Dan's second one, he's gonna go USMTS racing. Both features this weekend will be won by drivers that have 0 USMTS career feature wins. 2 first-time winners this weekend at Hunt County for the USMTS series. My second one here, we're going to go to the Prairie Dirt Classic. We're going to put this one on the board right away. So this week, the One to Go show sent their check in for the second straight year to be in the Falls draw. So Coach Kraus, you're part of the gang. When we win that, money gets divvied up between the 4 of us. And last year, right, we did not even get on the big board. They didn't even draw our number. We didn't get matched up with anybody. My prediction is this. We will be on the big board at the 2024 Prairie Dirt Classic. Our number's going to get pulled, and we're going to be matched up with a driver this year at the Prairie Dirt Classic. All right, Bert. Your final lap here. What do you got?
All right, I'm going USMTS, and I am going to say that Jake Tim will get at least one win down there racing.
Okay, at least one win for Jake Tim. All right, Coach Kraus?
Sticking to my sweep theme, we're heading down to where's the USMTS at? I don't even know. I didn't even look. But
Hunt County in Greenville, Texas, just east of Dallas.
Gotcha. I'm sticking with my sweep theme, and the Rocket Rodney Sanders is going to sweep the weekend.
Is that who you got in the pick'ems?
Yeah, that would be who I got in the pick'ems.
That's who I have as well. All right, so we both got Sanders. So Good Jeff is going to parlay off of Bert's pick here. I thought you were going to snipe him, but he's parlaying it. Jake Tim gets at least one win this weekend and leaves Hunt County with a USMTS point lead after the opening weekend. So Dan's third and final one here. He has this. Between Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson, and Rico Abreu, they will have exactly half of the podium finishes in the 2 nights in the High Limit Series. Not at least half. So between those 3, there's going to be a total of 3, right? It's going to be exactly half of the podium finishes. So sounds like each of them could have one good night and one sucky night, something like that. But Brad Sweet, Kyle Larson, Rico will be responsible for exactly half of the podium finishes at Golden Isles. And for my third one, I'm going to go down to the Speed Weeks deal. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm going to go with this. So I consider Speed Weeks before the Daytona 500. Anything after that's this Golden Isle deal, not Speed Weeks. It's post Speed Weeks. Speed Weeks ends at the 500. No new tracks will be added for the late models for the Speed Weeks before the 500 for 2025. No new tracks for 2025 at Speed Weeks. Well, gentlemen, that wraps up episode number 213. Had a good time. Always fun talking racing. Fans, thanks for sending in your predictions. Thanks for sending in your feedback. Continue to do so. Share, like, do all that good stuff. Tell a friend about it. Hope you enjoy the show. Any closing thoughts before we sign off from Coach Kraus or Bert Lehman? All right, gentlemen, as always, I'm Ryan Aho. That is the Bert Lehman. That's Coach Kraus. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.